The Boston Bruins just robbed the NHL in a trade which involves Justin Brazeau heading to the Minnesota Wild in exchange for an absolute package, giving this Bruins team the start to the rebuild that they need. We're going to be talking about this heist. Just got home, sprinted home to get this video after this trade dropped about 20 to 30 minutes ago. We're going to be talking about all of that here, what's going on right now, everything we're seeing from this trade, and what this means for the Bruins going forward. Very quickly, before we get into the actual trade itself, be sure to hit the sub button. As I mentioned last video, we're at 5,903 subscribers on the road to 6K. We're less than 100 away, folks. If everybody who's not subscribed, watching this video, hits that sub button, we will get to the goal of 6,000. Without any further ado, let's get into this trade here from Frank Zervali, who dropped this initially. Sources say Minnesota Wild are acquiring Justin Brazeau from the NHL Bruins in a deal involving Marat Khusnutdinov and Jakub Lauko. Now, also breaking just a few moments ago is that the Bruins are getting a 6th-round pick in return as well. This was their own 6th-round pick, which got sent last season, completing a deal. And now, so the official trade that we're looking at right here is Marat Khusnutdinov, Jakub Lauko, and a 6th-round pick, which was the Bruins, will be their own in 2026 for Justin Brazeau. And ladies and gentlemen, this is an absolute steal for the Boston Bruins. We were looking at a trade. We've seen this break initially from Kevin Weeks. Excuse me. We saw this initially break from Kevin Weeks, and we really did see how much, this looked like it was going to be a return for. And the way that we've seen this trade come out, we were not really having any inkling of who it may be coming from the Minnesota Wild at this point. But now looking that we're seeing these two, along with a 6th-round pick for Justin Brazeau, this is a major, major trade for the future of this Bruins team. When we're looking at what is up now, the Bruins cap on Twitter posted this, with Marat Khusnutdinov and Jakub Lauko adding to that 4th line. Both are UFAs. Both are going to be expiring after this year. But when we look at this lineup, this makes this team so much younger. You get the NHL experience. You get the young aspect you're looking for. And being able to add those two in exchange for Justin Brazeau, a guy who may have been re-signed but was very, very uncertain with how he's been playing, with many other teams looking for a very big net front presence, the Minnesota Wild being one of those. We've kind of speculated that Justin Brazeau had a multitude of teams that were looking at him, and Minnesota Wild were one, and we see this deal here now. There's a lot of people that I'm seeing pretty concerned about this trade and not a fan of it. And the way that I'm looking at their understanding is that you're giving up Justin Brazeau, a guy who's 27 years old, was a very, very solid player last season, really didn't give him that experience that, he probably should have had, but due to the injury last season, the way we came about, and really the way he's playing this season, 20 points in 57 games for a guy who's been on the 2nd line here and there, the 3rd line for the most of the year, 4th line as of late, 2nd power play unit, a 6'6", 27-year-old guy who's a very big net front presence. That definitely seems like it's tough to give away because they don't get those players every day. But when you're also looking at him being a free agent, it does add to the aspect that the Bruins are going to be gaining a very, very big percentage of what they were looking for in this trade. Marat Khusnutdinov is an incredible player. I've been a huge fan of him for quite some time. And we go look at his stats. He's been in the NHL for 57 games this year, 7 points. Really has not had the year that the Minnesota Wild had hoped, which was why he's been listed as a trade candidate for that team for a couple weeks now at this point. But when you go back and look at his KHL stats, at 20 years old, 21 years old, the second round pick really has shown that what he was capable of. Going from 20 points, 49 games with Sochi in the KHL at that young of an age. And you go back the season before as well with SKA St. Petersburg, you see 41 points in 63 games. He really showed what he could do in the KHL, and it's a matter of time now until his game translates into an NHL level. We have to remember, still only 22 years old, smaller type forward, but he has an incredible offensive ability for him, and obviously has been a big asset in this trade for the Boston Bruins to be able to add and start the future of this build. He's another centerman, a young centerman, a Russian centerman, and, those types of players that we've seen them in the NHL before, we see them now. They could develop into very talented players once they get their footing. It may not be right away, but he has that potential. We're also looking at Jakub Lauko, a very familiar face to Bruins fans, and one that I am very happy to see. It feels like the Bruins are healing. It feels like the Bruins are going back to the team that they found success with last season and the season before. And when you go and look at his stats this year, of course not great either. 6 points in 36 games, or 38. I can't really see that. I do apologize. It's very small, I know. But when you're looking at him this year, there was a big concern for the Minnesota Wild about his injury status, whether or not he was going to be healthy enough, whether or not he was even going to be able to be traded because of the injuries, because of teams being a bit too hesitant on him. The Bruins was the best option for him, a team familiar with him, a team that we can get back into him. We know his injury history from the Boston Bruins medical staff, and just a player that the Bruins love to have, and it really sucked when he got traded last year. I think that this is really just another piece on top of this trade, but another 1-2 kind of punch here is the 22 and 24-year-old ages, respectively. Looking at two of these players, we've been able to see that these guys have potential to become long-term players on this team. And when you look at Marat Khusnutdinov, 22 years old, becoming into this NHL, really his first actual season after playing 16 games last year, both of these players being RFAs, the Bruins have the control of these two, and it certainly seems like they will be signed in free agency. And obviously, the Bruins wouldn't trade for both of these guys if they didn't have any confidence that they were going to be re-signed. Looking at this trade really tells me that these two are going to be parts of the future. I feel like the Bruins handpicked these players, and it does seem like the Wild were the ones to reach out on Justin Brazeau here in this instance. But overall, this trade is an absolute win for the Boston Bruins. And when we're looking at the offense here right now, we saw tonight's game, a very, very bad game. We see an AHL 50% roster pretty much here. Marat Khusnutdinov and Jakub Lauko fit into this lineup immediately. No doubt, Patrick Brown, Cole Koepke, Riley Tufte, Vinny Lettieri, 4 of those guys realistically could go back to the AHL, and we don't know what's going to happen with Brad Marchand. We don't know what's going to happen with Zacha, who's been linked to the Rangers. There's more moves coming, ladies and gentlemen, but this is only the beginning. But this is an absolute steal for the Boston Bruins. I want to know what you guys think about this trade. I'm going to have more videos on this specific one here, going over some in-depth pieces, and maybe we see an extension sooner rather than later on 1 or 2 of these players here in this trade. But when we're looking at the overall one, when we're looking at the outcome here, Marat Khusnutdinov, Jakub Lauko, a 2026 6th-round pick, which is Boston's originally, for Justin Brazeau, I do think that this is an absolute steal. I want to know what you guys think in the comments below, but of course, we have to take this now and look at what we're going to be seeing with the future of this team. We see the entire left wing slots going into free agency. Cole Koepke included, Marat Khusnutdinov, also a center, could put him in the middle, but when you're looking at the lines that we have in the center here, it doesn't seem like Huzi, as the Wild fans have been calling him, does seem like he could be missing out on center. But of course, he is a skilled enough player to be in the NHL. He's a skilled enough player to certainly be in here. And how long is it going to be until these guys develop on the power play? I think it's only time to tell. But I'm very excited about this trade. I want to see these guys in action as soon as possible. I cannot wait to see the Bruins fans' reactions for Jakub Lauko when he gets back to this Boston Bruins team. It adds depth right now. It adds depth in the future. It gets rid of a contract that you knew you probably weren't going to re-sign and gives you 2 new options to be able to go ahead and work with in the future. I'm very excited about this trade, ladies and gentlemen. Let me know what you think in the comments below. But that's all I got. Thank you for watching. Hope you have a great day. See you later.